was supposed to be a quick weekend getaway for Sarah and her two friends, Mia and Jason. They had found a secluded cabin online, nestled deep in the woods, far from the noise of the city. The listing promised peace and tranquility, exactly what they needed. The drive to the cabin was uneventful, but as they turned off the main road onto the dirt path leading to the property, a strange unease settled over them. The woods were dense, and the trees seemed to press closer the farther they went. "Feels like a horror movie setting," Jason joked, but his laugh was hollow. When they reached the cabin, it was smaller than they had imagined. The paint was peeling, the windows were smudged, and there was an odd smell in the air like damp earth mixed with something metallic. "It's fine," Sarah said, forcing a smile. "We'll make it work." That evening, they sat around the fire pit, roasting marshmallows and telling stories. The woods were eerily silent, with no sounds of crickets or rustling leaves. "Anyone else notice how quiet it is?" Mia asked, looking into the dark forest. Jason shrugged. Maybe it's too cold for the animals, but Sarah felt it too, a strange, suffocating stillness, as if the woods were watching them. As the fire died down, they decided to head inside. Mia locked the door and drew the curtains while Sarah rummaged through her bag for her phone. "Anyone else getting no signal?" she asked. Jason checked his phone. Nothing. Weird, the night passed uneventfully until around 3 a.m. when Sarah woke up to a faint tapping sound. She lay still, her heart pounding, straining to hear. Tap, 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 tap. It was coming from the window. Sarah turned her head slowly. The curtain was drawn, but the tapping continued, insistent and deliberate. She reached over to shake Mia awake. "Do you hear that?" Sarah whispered. Mia blinked groggily and nodded. They both stared at the window, the tapping growing louder. Jason stirred. "What's going on?" Before Sarah could answer, the tapping stopped. Silence filled the room once more, but it was heavier now, almost oppressive. Jason, ever the skeptic, got up and pulled the curtain aside. "There's nothing," his voice caught in his throat. On the other side of the glass was a face. Pale, expressionless, with hollow eyes that seemed to bore into Jason's soul. The face didn't move, didn't blink. It just stared. Jason stumbled back, nearly tripping over the bed. What the hell was that? The three of them huddled together, fear tightening their chests. Sarah grabbed a flashlight and shined it through the window, but there was no one there, just the dense wall of trees. "We need to leave," Mia whispered. Jason nodded, but as he reached for the door, a heavy thud echoed from the roof above them. Thud, thud, thud. It sounded like footsteps, slow and deliberate. Sarah held her breath, her grip on the flashlight tightening. The sound moved toward the edge of the roof and stopped directly above the window. Then, a long, scraping sound like nails dragging across the wooden shingles. Jason grabbed a knife from the kitchen. "We're making a run for it." Now they threw on their jackets and burst out of the cabin, the cold night air biting their skin. Sarah swung the flashlight around wildly, scanning the woods for any sign of movement. "Which way?" Mia cried. Jason pointed toward the dirt road. "This way, hurry." They ran, branches snagging their clothes and scratching their faces. Sarah kept glancing over her shoulder, convinced she could hear something behind them, a rustling, a low, guttural sound that didn't belong to any animal she knew. When they finally reached the car, Jason fumbled with the keys, his hands shaking. Come on," as the engine roared to life, the flashlight beam caught something in the trees. A figure, tall and impossibly thin, standing just at the edge of the light. Its head tilted unnaturally, and its eyes, dark and empty, seemed to shimmer in the beam. "Drive," Sarah screamed. Jason didn't need to be told twice. The tires spun in the dirt before catching, and the car sped down the road. Sarah looked back one last time and saw the figure standing in the middle of the road, watching them. They didn't stop until they reached the nearest town. Exhausted and shaken, they told the police what had happened. Officers went to the cabin the next day but found no signs of anyone or anything unusual. The cabin owner claimed they had never rented the property to Sarah or her friends. When the trio tried to show the listing online, it was gone. To this day, Sarah swears they weren't alone in those woods. And sometimes, late at night, she dreams of hollow eyes staring at her from the darkness,